Continuation of the cursed child. One stolen necklace brought a terrible curse on an innocent girl years ago. Now the truth is out, but the woman who plays the curse is dying. Can the curse still be broken, or is it already too late? The next morning, Anita and Rebecca finally gathered the courage to visit Madame Nene. The house was simple, quiet, and filled with the smell of herbal medicine. Anita's heart beat fast as they entered. For years, she had buried this moment under wealth, comfort, and silence, but now the past stood waiting in front of her. Madame Nene lay on the bed, weak but alert. Time had carved lines in her face, yet her eyes remained sharp. Anita stepped forward first. So, you remember me? She asked, her tone calm but stiff. Madame Nene looked closer at her, then nodded slowly. Some faces don't leave the memory. Rebecca stood behind her mother, nervous and hopeful. Anita took a deep breath. Yes, I took the necklace, she said, lifting her chin. It was years ago. I came to settle it. She opened her handbag and placed a thick bundle of cash on the table. 5 million naira, she announced, more than enough for the necklace. The room became very quiet. Madame Nene glanced at the money but did not touch it. Instead, she looked at Anita's face, proud, controlled, almost challenging. My daughter, she said softly, money is not repentance. Anita frowned. I am paying you back. To break what was spoken, Madame Nene replied calmly. You must bring the necklace itself, and your apology must be genuine. Anita's face hardened. I came all the way with money, she snapped. What do you want? Madame Nene sighed deeply. Humility. The word struck like a slap. Anita stood, anger flashing in her eyes. If money doesn't solve it, then keep your course, she said bitterly. Rebecca gasped. Mama, but Anita was already walking out of the room. The money remained untouched on the table. On the drive home, silence filled the car like heavy smoke. Rebecca finally whispered, Why did you speak to her like that? Anita gripped the steering wheel tightly. I apologized. I paid her. What does she want? She wanted your heart, Rebecca said softly. Not your money. Anita said nothing. That night, Rebecca sat on her bed crying. Mama, please, she begged. Be humble for my sake. I don't want this. I don't like this anymore. Her voice cracked with desperation. Something inside Anita softened. For the first time, she realized her pride was hurting the person she loved most. She went quickly to her closet, a place she hadn't opened fully in years, and began searching. If Madame Nene wanted the necklace, she would find it. Days passed. She searched drawers, boxes, old bags filled with forgotten memories. Dust rose, clothes spilled on the floor. Nothing. A week turned into 2, then 3. Just when she was about to give up, her hand brushed against a small forgotten bag tucked deep at the back of a shelf. Inside, wrapped carefully in old clothes, lay the gold necklace, still shining faintly, as if time itself had been waiting. Anita stared at it in disbelief. Her hands trembled. She finally whispered, I never even wore it. The next morning, mother and daughter returned to Madame Nene's house. Rebecca held the necklace tightly, hope burning in her eyes. But as they approached, they noticed people gathered around. Women dressed in dark wrappers, men speaking in hushed tones. Anita's stomach dropped. A neighbor stepped forward gently. You are looking for Madame Nene? She asked. Rebecca nodded quietly. Yes, the woman sighed. She passed away 2 days ago. She was buried yesterday. The words seemed to stop. Rebecca's knees weakened. No, she whispered. Tears poured down her face. Anita stood frozen, the necklace heavy in her hand like a stone. They were too late. That night, Rebecca cried endlessly. What do I do now? She sobbed. The curse can never be broken. Anita held her daughter, guilt flooding her chest. If she had just listened, if she had just swallowed her pride sooner, she would not bear this thought. Desperate for answers, they visited a respected Dibia, a traditional spiritual healer known for wisdom rather than fear. He listened carefully, eyes closed, fingers tapping softly against his staff. Finally, he spoke. The word spoken cannot be undone by money, he said, but respect can still open a path. He looked directly at Anita. You must take the necklace to her grave. Place it there as an offering. Then you must sleep beside the grave for 2 nights in humility and reflection. Anita stared at him. Sleep there? He nodded. Only then will the weights be lifted. Rebecca looked at her mother anxiously. Anita hesitated, then slowly nodded. For the first time in her life, she chose humanity over pride. As night fell, they prepared to go to the graveyard. The necklace glimmered softly in Anita's hands, and somewhere deep inside her, she felt the beginning of real regret, not because of fear, but because she had finally understood the pain she had caused. The final part of her journey was about to begin. The graveyard sat at the edge of the town, quiet and still, where tall grasses whispered whenever the wind passed through them. The moon hung low that evening, casting silver light across rows of simple graves. Anita stood silently beside Madame Nene's fresh grave, the gold necklace trembling in her hands. For the first time in many years, she felt small. No fancy clothes, no expensive car, no pride to hide behind, only regrets. Rebecca stood close by, her eyes swollen from crying. Are you sure you can do this, Mama? She asked softly. Anita nodded slowly. I have to, she said. For you. She knelt down and gently placed the necklace on top of the grave. The gold shimmered faintly in the moonlight before disappearing beneath a small cloth she laid over it. Her voice shook as she whispered, I am sorry. I am truly sorry. The wind stirred, as if listening. The first night was difficult. The graveyard felt alive with sounds, distant crickets, rustling leaves, the occasional hoot of an owl. Every shadow seemed to move. Anita lay on a small mat beside the grave, unable to sleep. Memories came rushing back. The supermarket, the trail of stealing, the careless laughter afterwards, then Madame Nene's tears. For years she had convinced herself that wealth erased the past. But here, under open sky, she realized nothing had ever truly disappeared. Tears slipped quietly down her cheeks. I thought money could fix everything, she whispered in the darkness. I was wrong. Back at home, Rebecca sat awake, anxious. For the first time in her life, she felt strangely calm, as if the invisible pressure that usually followed her had grown lighter. The second night at the grave was colder. Anita wrapped a blanket around herself and sat upright, staring at the moon. She spoke aloud as if Madame Nene could hear her. I was proud, she admitted. I didn't understand your pain. I thought being rich made me untouchable. The words felt heavy but honest. I hurt you and my daughter paid for it. A gentle breeze passed through them, lifting the edge of her wrapper. For a moment, Anita felt a strange peace settle over her. Not magic, not fear, just quiet understanding. She finally slept, and in her dream she saw a woman smiling softly, placing a hand on Rebecca's head before walking away into bright light. When Anita woke, the morning sun was warm and something inside her felt lighter. At home, Rebecca noticed even more changes. She moved through the house without accidentally picking things up. She passed objects without the familiar pull. For the first time in years, she felt free. When Anita returned from the graveyard, tired but calm, Rebecca ran into her arms. Mama, she cried, something feels different. Anita held her tightly. I think it's over, she whispered. Neither of them spoke of curses nor fear anymore. They simply held each other gracefully. Days passed. No items went missing. Rebecca returned to the university and found herself living normally, borrowing and returning things properly, laughing without anxiety, sleeping without guilt. Her roommate even joked one day, You have changed. You seem lighter. Rebecca smiled quietly. If only she knew. Anita also changed. She became gentler, less proud, more thoughtful. She began helping others quietly, without seeking praise. Sometimes she visited Madame Nene's grave with flowers, sitting there silently in respect. She no longer believed wealth made her powerful. She understood now that character mattered more than status. One evening, mother and daughter sat together eating akara, simple, humble food that reminded them of the life's ordinary beauty. Rebecca looked at her mother and asked softly, Do you think she has forgiven us? Anita gazed towards the horizon. I think forgiveness begins when we truly change, she replied. The air felt peaceful, and though the course seemed broken, both knew the lesson would stay with them forever. Yet, the story was not completely finished because some lessons do not end with magic or punishment. They continue through the choices people make afterwards. and one final chapter remained. Sometimes, Anita remembered how she had stood in Madame Nene's room, proud and defensive, dropping money on the table as though it could buy forgiveness. Now she understood that real apology required humility, something money could never purchase itself. And slowly, the shadow that once followed their family faded into memory. One evening, while preparing dinner together, Rebecca asked the question that stayed in her heart. Mama, why do you think this happened to us? Anita paused, then answered carefully. Because sometimes, she said, life teaches us lessons we refuse to learn in easy ways. She looked at her daughter with tenderness. I took something that didn't belong to me. I thought I escaped the consequences, but actions have long shadows. Rebecca nodded slowly. I used to hate myself, she admitted. Now I understand it wasn't only about the things I stole. It was about something unfinished. Anita smiled sadly. Yes, and now it is finished. Rebecca lived differently. Whenever she saw something beautiful in a shop, she smiled and walked away, unless it truly belonged to her. She learned that wanting something wasn't wrong, but taking without permission could carry unseen weight. Anita and Rebecca carried the lesson quietly, like a family secret turned into wisdom. Elders in the town later turned their story into a folktale told to children. Never take what does not belong to you, for every action plants a seed, and one day, someone you love may walk in its shadows. And though the curse was broken, the memory remained, a reminder that honesty is lighter than pride, and that true healing begins when the heart bends with humility. As for the old warning that started it all, people still spoke in hushed voices about the mysterious woman who had told Rebecca the truth on the roadside. The woman who seemed to appear just when she was needed the most. Some said she was simply wise, others said she was something more. No one ever saw her again. And so the story ends, not with fear, but with a lesson carried forward. Never think money can erase wrongdoings. Only truth, humility, and genuine apology can heal what pride breaks. The end. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comment section.